Hi people, Marino Wavenberg here again. As you can tell from the header, this video is it's going to be a short video on Lilith, aka the Black Moon. Okay, this is Lilith here. Okay, the Black Moon. Now, before I continue, I need to say that I'm not entirely sure about this, but most likely Lilith was named after the spiritual entity. Lilith, occultists know her as the demoness or the mother or queen of all demons, etc., etc., etc. She is the wife of the archangel Samael, the ruler of Mars, and that's all I'm gonna say. On an astrological, I'm going to explain what Lilith is in astrology, what the black moon is in astrology. Now, again, this is purely about the meaning that it has, just only vital information, honestly, because anything else is baggage, at least for the most part. If you just look up Lilith online on the internet, what will you find? The first thing you'll find is this. What is Lilith? According to Vice, Lilith, or more specifically the black moon Lilith, is the furthest point of the moon's orbit around the Earth when the moon is at its most isolated. I'm not entirely sure about this, but most likely it is the case. All you need to know is that the moon and Lilith are not one and the same. The black moon is, like I said, it's just by literal definition, it is most likely this, the furthest point of the moon's orbit around the Earth when it's at its most isolated. Now, the actual knowledge that you'll be using when dealing with Lilith in astrology, all you need to remember is that the moon deals with open emotions. This is my own natal chart, of course, that I use by default as an example. The moon, the default moon, just the moon as we know it, literally the moon, stands for open emotions. It stands for being straightforward, being open, being direct on an emotional level. So the moon represents a person's open emotions, emotions that are readily visible, emotions that are not clandestine. And Lilith does the exact opposite, okay? Lilith literally represents someone's hidden emotions, okay? It represents emotions or qualities that are of a minor nature, but sometimes can still be very vital or instrumental since the devil lies in the details, so to speak. And Lilith simply stands for hidden emotions, okay? It stands for all the hidden factors of an emotional nature and feelings that a person has. So that's all you need to remember. The moon, open emotions. Lilith, hidden emotions. Okay, Lilith is essentially the dark version of the moon. That's why it's called the black moon. It's the hidden moon, essentially. Now, in astrology, by default, Lilith, similar to the regular moon, the black moon, Lilith, okay, is substantially stronger, or better said, more emphasized in a woman's chart or in a woman's constellation as opposed to a man. But speaking of man, I'm going to start with the man first. For example, someone's natal constellation, the constellation they were born under. With men, Lilith represents women that he has struggles with in his life, women that he either has struggled with, will struggle with at some point in life, and or struggles with overall in life. For example, take my natal chart, my natal constellation. Lilith is in Taurus in the fourth house. The fourth house stands for domestic activity. It simply stands for my household, the household I grew up in specifically. Lilith here stands for the fact that I dealt with, based on what I said just now, stands for the fact that I had power struggles. I had struggles with women in the household. And Lilith being in Taurus in this context stands for specifically materialism. It stands for finances. It stands for money, essentially, or as well as progress overall. For the rest, Lilith's aspects matter. Okay, what planets Lilith is aspected to. Lilith's trine Venus and Mars here, and it just goes on. Okay, Lilith is square Jupiter. It just goes on and on and on. Lilith is a minor sextile, a semi-sextile to the moon here itself. Lilith is trine the ascendant. Lilith is sextile the descendant. It just goes on. You don't have to go into all of that. You just need to take things at a basic level. The zodiac sign Lilith is in matters, and the astrological house that Lilith is in your natal constellation matters. So yeah, if the black moon, for example, is in Taurus, it stands for materialism. It stands for money, financial possessions or material possessions, and progress. Um, it all depends on the context for the rest. Like I said, I already gave myself as an example. Lilith here In Taurus, in the fourth house indicates that I had power struggles with women in the household I grew up with or in, and these specifically indicate that these problems or these struggles were relating to finances and or overall progress in life. The rest all depends on the it depends on the aspects, etc. Of course, if you want to be as detailed about it as possible, but it's not necessary in general. This is especially taking into account that Lilith is a minor celestial body. So that's what Lilith means essentially. With women, Lilith is especially strong with women. Now, in a woman's chart, so in a woman's constellation, Lilith emphasizes her hidden capabilities. Okay, her hidden powers, if you will, of an emotional nature. Um, how should I put it? Lilith simply has indicates in a woman's chart. For women, Lilith simply indicates what tricks she has up her sleeve that could be fatal to a man, so to speak. But by default, Lilith simply stands for in a woman's chart for her hidden strengths, essentially things that she can do that she does not reveal to the public, or better said, she keeps hidden. So hidden emotions, like I said, as opposed to the regular moon, which would simply convey visible qualities, as invisible to the entire world. Um, yeah, and what else can I say? For the rest, you simply have to go over everything else. The zodiac signs and whatnot. Lilith in Aries, for example, would stand for aggression. Lilith in Leo would stand for romance. Lilith in Libra would stand for being balanced, etc., etc., etc. So that's all you need to remember in general. Okay, if you're a guy, then Lilith simply stands for the issues that you'll have with women in your life at some point, as well as overall. Okay, you'll have difficulty coping with women in a specific way. For example, if Lilith was in the fifth house, for example, and Lilith was in Taurus, then it would, generally speaking, mean that I attract materialistic women to me. This is true since Lilith is conjunct the fifth house. It doesn't need to be in the fifth house per se. It's conjunct the fifth house. The orb is 8 degrees, which is correct. If I go over my life, the majority of women that have approached me and that felt attracted to me were women that were more gold diggers, the materialistic type, the type that focuses specifically. I'm not specifically focusing on one woman. Okay, I just mean this in a general context. If I think back to my entire life from birth up to this point, then yeah, I've had more than a few women by no coincidence that I think 9 out of 10 times that has been the case. Not always, but 9 out of 10 times, or at the very least 7 out of 10 times. I've had women that have approached me and that showed an interest in me romantically, or even women that weren't interested in me romantically. They did stuff like ask me for money or try to insinuate something similar. Okay, in any case, it was about money. It was about wealth, finances. That's what I mean. So if you're a guy, Lilith is just what I said it means. Okay, the zodiac sign Lilith is in and the house that Lilith is in will determine what kind of women you'll be struggling with at some point in your life if you haven't done so already. Generally speaking, it happens early in life as well as overall in general. If Lilith, for example, was in Aries, then it wouldn't be financial. See what I mean? It would stand for aggression. Women that will felt attracted to me would generally speaking be like these screaming bitch types. They would be women that wanted to wear the pants in the so-called relationship. Women that essentially were aggressive to me, that showed bullying towards me or tried to dominate me. Women that really were aggressive with me or towards me. If Lilith, for example, was in Libra, then it would simply stand for, instead of the whole materialistic aspect, the likes of which I explained, Lilith would stand for. It would stand for having difficulty in maintaining balance with women. On certain occasions, I would get along well with women, and then the exact opposite would be the case the following day. There would be an imbalance, okay, or the adverse. There would be a well-developed balance. It all depends on the Lilith's aspects and whether Lilith is exalted or afflicted. It just goes on by nearby planets and so on and so forth. And for women, yeah, it means the same thing, but in reverse essentially, as opposed to men. Women or girls, if you're watching this, Lilith simply stands for the hidden powers that you have. For example, if I were a woman, just an example, if I were a woman, the idea makes me laugh about it. If I were a woman, Lilith would literally stand for the fact that I have a hidden tendency towards materialism on a household basis, essentially. Both the household I grew up in and or the household that I would have with, for example, my husband. Okay, if I got married, for example, or if I were seeing someone. Let's just say that I would be a gold digger. Let me just put it that way. If I were a woman, then Lilith would clearly indicate that I have a hidden tendency to be a gold digger. I would be materialistic. This is not like, hey, being open and straightforward, where, the average gold digger is just like, hey, she puts her cards on the table and she doesn't like convey anything. I mean, she conveys everything and she just immediately makes it clear that she wants money right off the bat. It's obvious. But you have women that with this placement, it's completely hidden. These women are usually, generally speaking, calm, nice, polite. And only as a man, when you get to know them, do they actually show their cards and they're like, hey, would you mind covering the bill? They do it in a sly and subtle way. At least they think they're being sly and subtle. But it's subtle by default. That's what I mean. If I were a woman, then I would have this trait. I would be the kind of guy, I would be the kind of woman that essentially at the last moment tries to get my guy, so to speak, to pay the bill at the last moment. And I would just silently keep pouring it on, honestly, almost like a scammer. Let's just put it that way. So yeah, that's what Lilith means. If Lilith, for example, was in Scorpio, and if I were a woman, so women, if you're watching this and you have, for example, Lilith in Scorpio, regardless of which house Lilith is in, okay, Lilith in Scorpio stands for default it stands by default for the fact that you're intense. You have a hidden tendency to be intense uh, and uh, and vigorous, essentially, and also a hidden tendency towards being sexually promiscuous and using your sexual promiscuity to gain power or attain power, to put it that way. Okay, essentially getting your way by quote unquote sleeping your way to a better place, like a better job or similar. In any case, simply using sex as a weapon. That's what it would mean. And of course, the house, as always, determines in which part of life it'll generally speaking manifest. So, last example, if you have a woman that has Lilith in the 10th house and Lilith is in Scorpio, this woman would generally speaking be the stereotypical woman that sleeps her way to the top in any kind of in a company or in any kind of career related profession, where she reaches the top by doing so, by seducing anyone she can seduce, you name it. Think of any woman that literally becomes the vice CEO of a company by literally sleeping with the boss and doing it everywhere and letting the boss, do whatever he wants, quote unquote, whatever he wants in whatever orifice he wants and whatnot. And so on and so forth, okay? The typical seductress aspect. But it's something that would be hidden, as in the other employees would never know about it. No one would ever notice anything at surface level because at surface level she's a nice, polite gal and everything goes well and whatnot. That's what Lilith essentially gives away, conveys. That's what Lilith conveys. The reason it took place in career is because it was in the 10th house. If it were, for example, in the second house, then it would be a woman that purely uses her seductive capabilities to gain an income, essentially. Think of a female scammer. If Lilith is afflicted, substantially afflicted, then yeah, it would essentially be a scammer, a woman that literally just screws guys over. It could be literally and figuratively, or otherwise to make a living. That's how she earns her money. So that's all. See you guys later. Bye.